Stephen Hotze, periodontist Dr. Ralph Hanna, dermatologist Dr. Rana Mays, ear, nose, and throat specialist Dr. Ben Salento, and surgical oncologist Makisha Miggins. Dr. Makisha Miggins. So, Dr. Hanna, okay, this is all what we've been waiting for. They say that you don't need to floss that often. It's the Department of Agriculture and Health and Human Services. And they said the latest dietary guidelines, no mention of flossing. The effectiveness of flossing, they say, is not really that great.
Well, actually, it's not a real study. It's not really. It's actually, they did it. What I mean by that is they did not do a study to compare people that flossed to people that did not floss, and after 10 years said, here's the evidence. It didn't really make a difference. Right. Actually, what happened is
so if it was a science experiment like we learned in class, they really didn't go through the protocol.
That. What they did is they looked and they found that we don't have that many studies on flossing alone, which doesn't mean that it's not effective. It doesn't mean that it does not help. It doesn't. It's just common sense.
Well, the common
and
sense
we
to me,
also see it all the time.
Yeah. If food is partially responsible for breaking down your teeth, right, and causing cavities and things, if it's stuck up in there for a year before your dental appointment that you claim you're flossing every day, right? And by the way, can you tell when we...
Of course we do.
It's like literally you're like picking it out and going, okay, hot dog, 1984. Right? So well, you can tell.
The story is that two major reasons for teeth loss are decay and gum disease. And they're both linked to certain bacteria. And our bacterial composition in the mouth is different from person to another. So some people are at higher risk than others. And those are the ones that definitely have to floss and cannot not floss. The people that are lucky, that are not really at high risk for either diseases, are the ones that may not floss and get lucky or get by. But that doesn't mean that they're still unhealthy, that they still have a high immune disease problem because all this bacteria.
This is your breath. It's got to. If you have, I'm all for a good aged steak, but if that steak has been stuck between your teeth like for the last 6 months, then that's probably not.
So by any means, there is no evidence to say that you should stop flossing. We need to floss.
Okay.
Can you say that this is like many other things where the experts aren't the ones who are making the recommendations?
Right. It wasn't the dentist. It was the Department of Agriculture and Health and Human Services.
Yeah. We didn't want to floss.
Yeah. Like maybe you should be flossing the cow's teeth or something like that. Okay. This next one here is interesting. Scientists say that they found cancer in a 1.7 million year old fossil. So like a lot of diseases, things aren't new. They just get out or we let them out. And let's talk about just cancer in the body. There's studies that say that a lot of us may have it in our body, but what we do lifestyle-wise determines whether it gets set free.
Correct. That's true. I think this study is very interesting, or this finding, in that it tells us that the cancer has not evolved much. In this paper, they looked at an osteosarcoma as what was found in the fossil. And so an osteosarcoma is a type of bone cancer. And they found that there weren't many differences compared to an osteosarcoma that could be found today in someone. And so it tells you that maybe these cancers are not really evolving much with time. You know, we think that a lot of evolution occurs with respect to bacteria and viruses and other diseases, but maybe not so much. And so it may be something key in our DNA or our lifestyles that really activate the changes.
Yeah, and that's interesting, that point of what we do to facilitate that cancer there. Do you think that's what took down the dinosaurs?
I don't know about that.
Okay, all right.
The ice age.
Yeah, right. Okay. Americans, surprise, Americans weigh 15 pounds more than they used to on average.
Well, that actually goes along with how we're eating mostly. I mean, and you can see the rise in diabetes.
Why did you look at me when you said that? Like, you said how you're eating. His eyes came up, and there was a direct contact over here.
I was told to look at you.
Okay. All right.
Basically, we're not eating very well as Americans, and so what you're seeing is an increase in sugar and content in the foods that we're eating. Most of the people that in your neighborhood are eating in the center of the grocery store and not around the edges where the natural food is. So there's been a 30% increase in the amount of sugar that humans are consuming in America.
Yeah.
And that's mostly from processed foods.
And then we also live longer, and then you get the hormone imbalances and all those types of things that slow down your metabolism.
Here's some statistics. In the 1960s, 8% of the people were obese in America, and about 32% were overweight. Currently, 2/3 of Americans are overweight. Half of those people that are overweight, 34%, are obese. Now, this is in America. In Europe, in Italy, where they have pastas and they have olive oil, and in France, where they have bread and wine and all that,
cheese,
the obesity rate's only 8%. And so what's the difference? And because I deal with thyroid issues, we have fluoride in our water. 70% of Americans have fluoride in the water, which is supposed to help with cavities, which hadn't been proven that it prevents cavities. But fluoride is a halogen, and it competes with the iodine molecule in the thyroid hormone. And this is why we have an epidemic, in my opinion, of thyroid. They don't have the problem in Europe that we have, but they don't allow fluoride in the water in Europe.
Yeah, or certain foods.
Right. So I always recommend for our people, make sure your water is filtered, and don't drink out of plastic, drink out of glass like from Mountain Valley. I don't own anything in Mountain Valley, but I recommend that.
Glass, yeah.
Or you can get a filter under your sink, and it's not all that expensive, but you can get one that does reverse osmosis and will take the fluoride out of the water. So if you're going to drink, try to drink water without fluoride.
And I want to add that at the same time that we're 15 pounds heavier, we're not getting any taller. Because I just told the audience this morning, it's like you can have like maybe not a weight problem, but a height problem, right? But yeah, so that's the issue
and
there.
Also, it's not just what we eat, but also what we're drinking these days. The carbonated.
When you're thirsty, you have a soda.
That's the sugar problem. It's back to the sugar problem.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and of course lack of exercise, but really 90% of it is what we're eating.
And the other thing too, as we age, our hormone levels decline. It's inevitable, and the hormones affect our body's metabolism, particularly thyroid. We'll talk about that later.
Right. And when it comes to sugar, it's interesting because a lot of people think, well, okay, it's sugar. Sugar stores itself in the body as fat when you're not using that energy, right? And we have a hard time understanding, like we think if we eat something like a steak with fat in it, we get fat. Well, fat doesn't make fat, but it's when your body stores the carbs.
It's how the sugar is presented to you as well. I mean, there are carbohydrates and complex sugars that are great for you, but the simple sugars that we're adding to our foods is the thing that's causing obesity, cancer, heart disease at much higher rates in the last 30 years.
Another side of that story is also the lifestyle. I was in Europe 2 weeks ago, and I think I have walked at least 10 miles a day because that's the only thing you can do to get around. While here, we're always trying to park like the closest to a grocery store door.
And we complain that we got to walk from our air-conditioned car to the air-conditioned building, and it's 5 feet. Like, oh my gosh! Right? No, you're right. That is a lifestyle. Speaking of, in Britain, there's this guy who's playing Pokemon Go, and obviously he's playing it a lot because he lost 28 pounds. And they're like, oh my gosh! So the game, I start playing the game. But the reason why is he got up and started walking, right? And I think a lot of parents, at the same time, you don't want your kids playing video games or little games like that all the time. The thing is that we're all noticing our kids are getting up and walking, not sitting on the sofa stuck to a game. Yeah, probably snacking less than the whole bit. I'm gonna start playing Pokemon Go. Okay, this next one is like there's always like those research studies that you kind of go, okay, this is gross, and who came up with this? Okay, and have you heard of this cockroach milk? Okay, before you diss it, listen. It's a Pacific beetle cockroach, so not just any old cockroach. And it feeds its babies this rich formula. It's got protein crystals and 4 times the energy of cow's milk. And I just want to know, like, how do you milk a cockroach? And how many millions do you need to milk to get like half a bottle, right? Okay, so do any of you know about this research here?
It's interesting in that you can't actually milk a cockroach. But what they did do was they extracted the crystals from the young babies, and they found that it was high in protein and fat, good amino acid stores, and so that it was probably what allows for rapid cockroach development, but also that allows them to live these sustained periods without getting nutrition.
Not only sustained periods, but have you ever like killed a cockroach and you were sure? You were sure. Oh, I smashed it. I saw stuff come out, right? Yeah. I'm serious. The next day, I saw the same cockroach. He had some crutches, and he was going along, and I was like. And at that point, I just lifted him up and put him outside and said, "You deserve to live." Right? But all right, there. So sometimes we do studies like this. It's not necessarily that they would maybe want us to have that particular cockroach milk.
Who studies that?
But what do we learn from it? What do we make from it?
Who's paying for this?
I have no idea.
Those are tax dollars at work.
Well, hopefully that was a private, endowment fund or something like that. Anyway, thank you all very much. Coming up.